we didn't address the wheels at all when we decontaminated the car, because we knew we'd be taking them off so we can clean the barrels really well and stuff. So what's the general procedure here for getting them prepared?
Oh, we'll take these outside, give them a deep cleaning, just regular shampoo that we'll use with it, and then we'll bring it back in, dry everything off. We'll take a look at what's left on the surface. Usually, you're going to find a little bit of rubber, a little bit of tar on the inner barrels. This few miles on it, probably not, but if so, we'll treat that with like Geon tar, get that broken down, and then we'll do a couple of prep wipe downs on it, inside and out. And once again, we want the finish of the wheels as squeaky clean as we possibly can before we go into coating.
You think we're going to need to clay these at all?
No, we shouldn't. Shouldn't need to, and you want to be careful on a finish like this. You don't want to mar that because there's nothing you can do about it if you did.
So these are satin.
Yep.
Any precautions you recommend when cleaning?
Satin, for the most part, you shouldn't have any troubles, but I would always make sure that you use a pH neutral kind of shampoo or soap. You don't want to use any kind of harsh cleaners on them. You do not want to risk causing any kind of spotting or staining. Once again, if that happens, you're done.
Yeah, because even if you did polish satin, then it turns into gloss. Like it turns into like a weird, funky gloss.
Right. Yeah, you can't go back at that point.
Now, what about, this would be a good time to get whatever junk on the tires off.
Yep.
Right? We want to do that prior to coating if we can help it.
Yeah, we can go in when we're out washing it. I'd probably wet everything down in particular and use a stronger cleaner on the tires, Sonax all-purpose cleaner or something, and probably go through several cleanings of it. Let it sit, take a hard brush, and brush that off, because you can feel there's a slickness to it and whatever kind of tire dressing on it. If you want to switch over to a better tire dressing, it's not going to work well if you don't get that other stuff stripped off of there first.
Yeah, I have people complaining all the time about brown and other tires turn brown. They put Carpo Pearl or some other, Adams VRT or the Geon tire, some stuff on the tires, and they turn brown in 2 days. Well, you got to get the other junk off the tires first.
Right, and sometimes that takes a lot of effort depending on what they have. You got a strong silicone based tire dressing on there before, you got a lot of cleaning before you're going to get it off.
But then the nice thing is, once you get them deep clean and you get a good product on there, all you have to do is then maintain it.
Yep.
You clean them, but I find that I need just a light APC or a rubber and tire cleaner, and just a couple of swipes every wash, and then dress it every other wash, and then good to go.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna cut the nibs off here. I'm insane.
Yeah, that's a level I don't even go.
Come on, Todd. You're my idol here. You're supposed to be on a different level. So for those of you guys who watch me do this on all of my wheels, I'm gonna do a quick denibbing, and then we'll take these outside and do our thing. Man, that looks so much better. I can't handle nibs on my tires. So I'm gonna go through and do that real quickly, and then we'll get rolling. Man, the darn audio. So bent out of shape about this, messing it up. Anyway, we went out, cleaned off wheels, tires. The wheel cleaning process is pretty simple, using a sponge and some Geon Bathe. Followed with, eventually we sprayed it down with some Geon Iron and let it sit for a few minutes. But what you're seeing here is the process of cleaning them. And then the tires, man, the tires took forever to try to get some of that goop that they put on them at the dealer. I'm using Sonax APC, and aggressively working on scrubbing the tires in an attempt to get this off of them. They just really don't, it just really didn't want to come off. It's probably some heavy silicone-based stuff. I ended up doing two different applications of the APC in order to try to get this clean and removed. So this part of the process of cleaning these satin wheels is a little quicker than, say, the paint, where you're going to add the extra step of using a clay solution. So anyway, went through this process of scrubbing the tires for 45 minutes or so to get them as clean as possible. So these have, what do these have on them?
These have G-Unmos on them. I've got a couple of coats of that. And even if you're going to a track day or something, the wheel is going to be much easier to clean up. I mean, that's the whole key to it. I've come off the track, I've had huge chunks of rubber on it. It just comes right off. I don't have to use any kind of harsh wheel cleaners or anything. Just a little bit of soap and water, very light agitation. The wheel cleans much easier. And if you've got a car, especially like a German car, BMWs, Audis, Porsches that don't have a ceramic rotors, they produce a tremendous amount of brake dust. And it's like a non-stop cleaning of wheels. And what the coating is going to do, it's not going to prevent brake dust from building up, but it's going to wash off a lot easier. And if you let it go longer, you're not going to have that etching into the finish and staining that you get. So that's the benefit.
But I mean, you're still going to have to
clean the wheels.
Touch the wheels,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. So I'll spray this off here. Even with the surface being really dirty, it's been raining all week. Yeah, and you can see just how the water reacts to it, and stuff just doesn't want to stick to that surface.
Now, have you been topping those at all with any kind of spray, like a Bathe Plus or something?
This one here, no, I haven't, because I haven't had these wheels on for very long. But typically speaking, if I want to maintain them, I'll use something like Polish Angel Super Sport. That's designed as a kind of a wheel coating, call it light, but it works as a great topper or maintenance product for your coated wheels.
That can also be used by itself too, right?
Yes, it can be used by itself. If you didn't want to go through the effort of coating your wheels, you can get some really good durability out of it. It looks really nice. It's a PTFE based product. A little bit goes a long way with it.
I find those type of like spray silica or spray silicon dioxide sealants are great. Let's say you buy the car, you're doing what we're doing, a full decontamination polishing, and you're just not, you don't have like wheels off time.
Yep.
Then maybe next month, so you hit them with that, they're you get some beating, a little extra protection, and then next month you do wheels off and then take care of the wheels.
Yeah, exactly. You can do that. You just use a strong prep to get all of that off of the surface before going into your coating. And with like these, not everybody's got the ability to take off center lock wheels, for instance. You have to have a torque wrench that'll go 450 foot. Not many people have those laying around. So if you're using just a lighter product like a Super Sport, it's going to be great for maintaining it. It's going to show some durability. If you use a lot of other kind of waxes or sealants and things, it's just not going to hold up well to the heat and everything else the wheels go through.
All right, let's finish up the wheel over here. It's been sitting here for about 5 minutes. All right, so now we're going to go through and repeat the process on all the other three, and then we'll take them inside and get them ready for coating. All right, so I'm going to get the wheels.
I think the first video I watched of yours was the mistakenly marked cabinet fiasco.
Oh, that's a good first one there. That's when you know you're special. All right, so I'm gonna get the wheels dried. So I'm gonna go through through that process, just kind of get them semi-dried in preparation for preparation. All right, so I like your idea of it's a lot easier than trying to get the wheels dry to let them dry.
Yep.
You know, I blew them off with compressed air and wiped them off, but there wasn't anything on the wheels, so it's hard to get the water off. So the best thing to do is to just let it sit for 3 hours, 2.5 hours to air dry.
Right, you know? Because you got areas in the tire where it can kind of stick, and the last thing you want to worry about is mixing water with your coating.
So now we need to prep it, right? We need to get ready to go. And because it's satin, claying doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, does it?
Right, exactly. We don't want to risk marring up the surface. But you know, should have got rid of everything on there with iron. So we should be good to go. Now we're just going to go in. We're going to use some prep on the surface. If we have anything built up on there, tar or whatever, we can use the tar remover.
Gotcha. Okay. Where do you start, front or back? Or?
It doesn't really matter. Depends on how I'm feeling at that particular moment. But you know, I'll just go in, give it a liberal dose of prep. Should have been like a cooking show, and we could have had one beside it already done. And
pretend like it tastes good.
Yeah.
So after prep, is there like, I mean, we don't need to wait, right? We
Nope.
Go right into it.
Go right into it. And once again, this prep is so important, just to make sure you've got no residue of anything on there. The cleaner the surface is, the better the bond will be. Okay.
Yeah, we got to be careful with these suckers because of the anti-seize that's in the middle.
Yep. And this part, it's not really rocket science or anything. Just get it cleaned up.
And we talked about this in the beginning of the video when we were spraying off your wheels. I mean, the basic thesis here is to coat the surface to make it easier to clean. Less chance of contaminant buildup, from brake dust. I mean, even with carbon ceramics emit that kind of that real metallic-y pad material that can still, I don't know that it builds up like regular brake dust, but certainly road grime, debris, tar, stuff like that. This will help us maintain a nicer looking wheel.
Yeah, it makes it much easier. I'm like most people, I don't like spending a lot of time cleaning up wheels.
Yeah.
So if I can invest that time up front with coating, and then make my subsequent cleanups much easier, saves a lot of time in the long run.
The main advantage for me with coating on wheels is drying.
Yeah.
Just blow it off.
Yep.
Same
Yep, exactly.
All right, so now clean wheel.
Yep.
Ready for what?
We're ready to apply coating on this one. We're going to do 2 different layers. We're going to do a Miyabi base coat, and then we're going to do a Stance rim coat on top.
So why are we? I thought Miyabi was for the car, for the paint. To me,
it is, and that's why we're putting the Stance on top of it, because the Stance is a high temp rated coating. And it's designed more for wheel application. So you just get that nice hard layer base of the Miyabi, and then you get the stuff that's going to interact with all the brake dust and everything else sitting on top of it.
Higher temp capable, theoretically, the Stance.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right, exactly. So as we do with any coating, we take off the cap, take a look there. It's all little shards of glass that's on there. Here, let me get this.
So there's glass
around the edges. This has been used several times before. Maybe the last time it wasn't completely wiped off before the cap was put back on, or it was wiped off and the cap was still wet, and you get this. So you want to make sure and go in and get all that cleaned off, especially if you're doing this on the body. You're not worried as much about wheels, but you don't want to scratch it if at all possible. So get all that stuff off of there when you start.
Now, if some of them have that little
dropper
thing,
yep,
that's compressed air.
Yep, you can hit it with compressed air to get that out. Or if it looks really bad, you can just pull that whole piece out. You can either clean it out with hot water or just go to like a pipette, like we use right here. These are real cheap, easy to get in there. And we have a couple different tools that we're using. You got a traditional block applicator that we will put our microfiber applicator cloth over. This would be good for the inner barrels. But we get in these little areas, square peg, round hole kind of deal. Doesn't work real well.
Yeah, I tried that.
So what we do here is we take like our foam applicator pads, cut them up into 4 pieces, and that allows us to get into those small areas. Before, we used to do it straight application with this. Worked great. Then a couple weeks ago, I tried it with our new microfiber applicator, and I get control over it better, and you get a more even coverage when you're applying it with the microfiber as opposed to the foam. Then when I'm done, I can take my little piece right here, put it back in the cabinet. Whereas if I did it directly, I'd have to throw it away afterwards. Now I'm just throwing this away afterwards. So to start off, just get a bit of product right here. You don't have to get it really wet. A little bit goes a long way. And it doesn't really matter where you start, just as long as you get everything a nice even coat.
Now, I did stance on my Volks for my Honda recently, and I laid it on, like, I was super anal about the first coat on how thick I put it on, and I laid it on really thin, thinking, it was going to react like other coatings, and this stuff you can slop it on there.
Yeah, and you're not going to have any problems. There's other coatings on there that if you don't get it off in 30 seconds, it's going to turn to glue.
Right.
And when you're using stance in particular, you can let it set for 20 minutes, come back, and it wipes off real easy. Same thing with Miyabi. Miyabi is really easy to work with too. And that's a misconception in the industry, especially used a lot by coating manufacturers, that it has to be difficult to mean that it's good, and that's not the case in the least bit.
So what's the process with Miyabi that's different? So as far as time,
Miyabi, I'll let this sit on for about 5 minutes, whereas stance, I'll let it set for about 20 minutes. And in between these coats, I'll give it about an hour to sit after doing Miyabi before I apply stance to the finish.
I mean, that's almost, by the time you get done with the 4th wheel, you're almost ready to go.
Yep, exactly.
So we don't need to, well, I let it cure for like 3 hours. Is that not necessary?
What, between coats?
Yeah.
Not necessary. And if you're doing, let's say, multiple coats of stance, an hour maximum is all you really need in there. You could literally finish the application, go back to your first wheel and start it, and you'd be fine. You just need to make sure you give it plenty of time to sit. I've got around there.
I mean, for me, it seems like the 2 coats, now we're going to be doing 2 different products here, but the 2 coats is more to cover any area I might have missed than anything,
Yeah, you're ensuring that you're getting an even coverage on it. That's the big thing. With coating, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, meaning you're not going to get twice the protection by your second coat.
Because the resin will essentially, the new layer of resin evaporates, doesn't it? I mean, what's the chemical?
Yeah, and you're getting such a small amount on here, and it's bonding almost immediately to this surface. when you go in and put that second coat, it's not necessarily giving you the same thickness layer as the first did. And I like to tell people 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals about 1.2.
Yeah.
And what you get out of it in terms of durability and looks. Now when we're dealing with a satin finish like this here, you really have to put some kind of coating on it, because satin black wheels or matte black wheels, they are the worst for dirt and stuff getting caught into the pores of it, and it stains that finish. You'll start to get a brown finish. After you clean the wheels and they dry, they'll still have kind of a stain kind of look to them. Mm-hmm. You go in, you coat them, that coating gets down into all those pores and prevents all that stuff from sticking in there. Mm-hmm. Now it's not gonna take a satin wheel and turn it glossy all of a sudden, but usually what it'll do, it'll add just a little bit of richness to that look. So does it change it a little bit? Yeah, but it's very, very slight. Mm-hmm. It's not like, you know, all of a sudden we've got a glossy wheel.
Right now it's still wet, right?
Yep.
So when
yep.
you wipe it off, it'll be somewhere in between where it was and where it is right now.
Right, exactly. And with this coating being easy to work with, I can go in, apply the barrel too, and then once I'm done, come back and start with the face of it. Some coatings you need to remove them a little bit more quickly, so I would do just the face and a barrel. Like if I was using Geon rim, for instance, I'm probably going to do just one area at a time, because it gets tackier a little bit more quickly.
Talk to me about gloves. It's not just for chemical protection. It's so that you don't finger up the wheels.
Yeah, exactly. You know, gloves for me, you know, this hardly has any kind of scent to it at all. Some coatings out there in the market are just the nastiest smelling thing. You don't even want to get close to them. So it's just being safe, having gloves on. Typically you're going to get coating on the bottle during the process, holding it in your hand. You just want to avoid, you know, extended exposure to it. And exactly right, touching things.
Oils in your hand.
Yep.
Might
interact with the coating.
Of
yep.
The coating, right?
Yep, absolutely. So now I'll work on the inside, and what I can do is I can take that same applicator I used for the front and work on getting around the inner parts of the spokes a little bit, where that block might have some difficulties. And also, I can get around the wheel weights a little bit easier. Now that I've done that, I'll switch over to my block applicator.
Does this stuff flash on the paint? Does Miyabi?
No.
I haven't done any Kamikaze coatings on the paint.
No. Once you put it on there, it's really easy to see that's on the surface. It doesn't flash off like others. Will it go through a little bit of a drying process? Yeah, but it's not like that flashing that you see a lot of them will do. And since these wheels are a bit porous, particularly on the inside, you're going to use a little bit more product than what you would, say, just a regular painted surface. And we make sure that we don't drop Matt's nice wheels onto the floor off the table.
Yeah. I'm going to have to denib the backs too. It's bothering me. You're going to be out there cutting the nibs off your tires. I know it.
I just won't do it while you're watching.
You don't want to give me any kind of credit.
That's right. I do have relatively new tires on my car too.
See?
Yeah, the key is just making sure you get nice even coverage. You don't have to go through all the efforts of cross hatching like you would on paint. This one I'm applying more product than what I would on paint, because I know that it's going to soak into the somewhat porous finish of this. side. Now, we should be ready for removal. And what I recommend is having 2 different towels, 2 different colors. Just makes it easy. I know that, you know, like the red one's going to be my first wipe, the black one is going to be my secondary wipe. That first wipe you go through typically is going to get rid of about 80% of the residue on it. Then you go back afterwards with your second one, get any last bit off of there, repeat that process.
Do you use older towels? Because you're going to have to ditch these towels.
Yeah, with wheels, I'll definitely use a little bit older towels. I try to use the new ones when I'm doing paint. Once again, we don't have a nice glossy finish we're worrying about, you know, causing any kind of marring on. So I can use a little bit older ones, and then yes, we're going to toss them. You know, some people ask, well, can you just go ahead and put it in water, soak them immediately afterwards, and then wash them and put them back through? Sure, you could do that, but do you really want to risk these getting mixed in with your good towels and the possibility that you could end up hurting the paint on something else? For me, it's cost of doing business. Get rid of the towels, be safe about it. And there's not a whole lot to remove here. Like I said, it's not sticky, it's not gummy. It's very easy. Now, should you wait, or let's say you're in the middle of applying it and you get a phone call, you get distracted or something, and then you come back, it's been 30 minutes, like, oh crap, I forgot to remove that stuff. If it is sticky, you can go back and reapply the product right over it, and then immediately do your removal, and that should help reactivate things so it comes off easier. I've had some before on my own car, like in the door jambs. I was working on my X5M, and obviously I got distracted, and there was 2 door jambs I completely forgot to remove Kamikaze ISM from. Noticed it a couple days later, and that took extreme compounding to get that off of the surface. You don't want to forget about it. At least it was my own car that I made that mistake, not somebody else's.
That added 4 hours to your 100-hour detail.
Yeah, it was a lot of time. A lot of time. Actually, I think I've had that same mistake I've done to 2 of my own cars. So the guys give me a little hard time about that around here. So going back here,
that's when you start saying we. You know,
yeah, we made a mistake.
Yeah.
So yeah, back here with my secondary towel, really the big area that we need to watch for are these little corners down in here, because that's where stuff will get trapped if it's going to. And what you can do is afterwards you can take a look in there with a flashlight or grab the light off your phone, look around. It'll show up as a dark spot if you didn't get it all removed. And then should you fail to get that dark spot hardens and cures, and you won't get it back off.
Now, do you have to worry about removing too much of it right here?
No, because it's going to go in and it's going to bond itself to the surface. And as you're removing that top residue, it's not going to affect what's bonded to the surface. That's that before. Okay. I can come back afterwards after I do the inner barrel, make sure everything is off here. Go back to my first towel.
Now, how long are you going to wait before doing like a tire dressing? Because couldn't that affect your curing?
Well, if you're really good about the application, you shouldn't have to worry about it, but there's always a good chance that you can get some of that tire dressing onto the freshly coated wheel. So, you know, we try to wait as long as possible. Most cars that are in here, it's not a big rush on. So if I were coating these, and then we coat your calipers, and then tomorrow the wheels go on, I would wait till we're doing all the last minute touches to the car to apply my tire dressing to it. that. Okay, simple.
So we're gonna let this sit up for about an hour.
Yep, and then I'll just kind of take my light here, look around. If I see any, like here's some hiding behind the air valve. Everything looks good. So what we'll do is we'll go on, work on the others, do our application to the brake calipers, and then we can come back at that time and work on the second coat, which is going to be the stance rim coat.
Sweet. All right, so we're gonna prep these just like we would a wheel, right?
Yep. Yeah, get all the cracks and crevices out of there, and then
Beauty of carbon ceramics is these aren't all that dirty.
Right, exactly. Usually when I'm dealing with the carbon ceramics, I'll spray the prep directly on the towel as much as I can.
Yeah,
just
I was
to
thinking that.
Avoid any overage on that rotor, although it shouldn't hurt it, but when you're dealing with that kind of expense, better safe than sorry, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Once again, I keep going back to it and repeating it, but the key to this is that prep and the cleaning. You know, you get an older car that has a nice finished rotor on it, and you want to do this, you really need to take the time, get in there. If you need to get in with a brush in the cracks and crevices with prep or something, work all that stuff out.
Otherwise
better
you're wasting your time, right?
Yep. Yep. The better you do at prepping it, the longer it's going to last, and the better the performance of the coating is going to be.
So now we're going to do stance on this.
Yep.
Reason?
Reason we're going straight to that is because of the temperatures created by the caliper. That is designed for that high temp kind of application, whereas the Miyabi is not. Your rim itself is only going to get so hot unless you're out the track day or something, but those brake calipers are going to get pretty darn warm.
Man, these have a lot of little pockets and stuff.
Yep.
Plus I can't really see it.
If it's on?
Yeah. Can't really see where I hit and where I didn't, so I'm just going to have to keep this organized a little bit up here to the tip. So, like wax and everything else, more is not always better.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Just appropriate.
Yep. You just want to get a nice even coverage. If you put it on at any point and you see it like running or dripping, you're using way too much. Just get a nice
as
even.
Expensive as this stuff can get. I mean.
Yep. That, and you definitely don't want to risk having it run or drip onto the rotor itself.
Yeah.
Then you got problems. And then this will be a little bit different because we're going to want it to set on the surface for about 20 minutes. Normally, we'd do it. Maybe I would do 2 calipers and then removal of other kind of high temp coatings. But with this, it sets a little bit longer. You can do all 4, come back, start your removal process. Start working on some other area of the car. Come back an hour later and do another coat. I would definitely put 2 coats on the calipers.
Well, and these I can already tell, making sure you hit everything is going to be the tricky part. So the yellow paint, the angle we're at, and I can't really see it.
Yep.
Versus the black wheels, you can tell exactly where you put it.
Yep. Well, it's going to be a little bit of the same way on your white car.
Yeah. And then just like wheels, this helps us to stay clean.
Exactly. And with all those small little areas that you have in there, it's just an area where stuff can sit.
Be even more beneficial if we did this on the red caliper steel brakes.
Yep. Yep.
Cool, so that's the process. So I'll come back to you in roughly 20 minutes and we'll wipe this off. Do our prep wipe, which this again, I like Todd's suggestion, keeping it off the carbon ceramic just in case. This is so cool though. You know, a lot of people have been giving me in the comments, I mean not a lot of people, but some people giving me a hard time about, you know, going through this process. But you know, you get a new car. I've done this to pretty much every car since my 2010 when I got my 2011 M3. Of course, my process has gotten more sophisticated, but in general, I'm going to take a new car. New cars aren't as clean and organized or clean and dialed in as you would think a new car should be. I mean, just think about all these years of experience that I'm, you know, pulling out of Todd, or that even I have, you know, doing this, you know, working on this kind of stuff. You know, a guy in the prepping at the dealership is not on this level. They're just not. They haven't invested the time and energy, and they're not paid enough. And then they don't have products like what we're using here. It's just, this is on a whole different stratosphere than what your dealership is equipped to handle. Time, money, expertise. Let me try to keep myself organized here. Remember where I've been. I mean, is it necessary to coat your calipers? I mean, it's certainly not. But the wheels are already off, so why not? I'm going to clean this up too after I'm done. You know, I've been so torn on this whole, what do I do? Do I coat, or do I, yeah, one, do I coat the car? And secondly, do I put clear film on it? I mean, I think I'm gonna like this. I don't know, we'll see. The peace of mind aspect of it, the aspect that I can walk into a dealership and trade in a perfect car or sell the car outright, is appealing. All right, so this one's done. I'm gonna go work on the back one. So I'm gonna go dial in the others, the back calipers, which will be the same procedure, and then I'll come back to you when it's time to wipe these off. After applying the stance coating to all of the calipers, let sit for about 20 minutes, came back and wiped off with a microfiber towel, and then waited an hour and went and added a second coat. So while I was waiting for the calipers to dry so that I could, or cure, so I could put the second coat on, I came back around and started putting the stance on top of the Miyabi here. And so I let each wheel cure for about an hour of the Miyabi base coat before coming back around and doing the stance and applying the stance in the same fashion. So, you know, we install it the same way as we did the Miyabi, as you saw Todd do. The only difference is that stance you'll let sit up for about 25 minutes before coming back and wiping it off. So, you know, you'll repeat this process with each wheel, you know, letting it cure or letting it set up for 20 minutes and then coming back around and wiping it off. And you'll see me, you know, transition from the flat block to the sponge or the cut wax applicator to hit all the little cracks and crevices of the wheels. So, you know, wheel process, we'll go over the cost of these, but wheels off, doing coating, I mean, this is a big, long, drawn-out process. I mean, it took me the better part of a day to finish all of these. So, you know, I probably spent, you know, 6 or 7 hours, from start to finish, from removal to cleaning to prep to application to curing time, and also inclusive of letting them air dry for a while. So this process is pretty darn intensive. It would be even more intensive if you didn't have satin wheels. If you have a gloss wheel or an older wheel and you wanted to take them off and coat them, you'd have to use a clay bar and really decontaminate them, maybe even polish them if they're really scratched up. And so this process can take a really long time. But going through this will help make cleaning the wheels much more enjoyable and easier to do, and less chance of any kind of buildup of anything. So, and then for me, the biggest advantage is in drying, that I can blow them off and they're done. So anyway, that's the wheel process. Thanks for watching. What happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.